Trisha, it's good to be back with you in dialogue again. Our last bit of dialogue was really a piece of thinking around why we were bringing the program that we ran last year, Thinking with the Heart in Mind, back. This year in 2025, we ran a pilot in 2024 with a group of online participants and a group of in-person participants. And this year in 2025, we're bringing it back. And so our last dialogue explored why and what matters most to us about bringing it back and about the program. And as we connect again to be in dialogue about thinking with the heart in mind, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on why we are extending the program this year in the 2025 version.
Thanks, Francoise. Good to be with you again. Well, I think I'm just remembering back now to all that time that we spent. I mean, I think you and I can't remember exactly when we got started on the design for Thinking with the Heart in Mind and how long it took us to actually get to the point where we both realized we have to run this past some other minds just than the two of ours. Because every time you and I sat down to explore this weave of these two incredible bodies of work, the practices from the contemplative traditions and the practice from Nancy Klein's thinking environment, there was just so much, wasn't there? And then we went on this incredible process of summarizing it and sort of kind of like wrestling it to the ground into something that we could offer in what turned out to be 4 full days, 4 full in-person days. And I think it was 6 kind of slightly more than half-day sessions for the online. And we ran it and it was great and people loved it and we got great feedback. But when you and I sat together and thought, okay, well, given on the basis of the experience we've had of this and on the basis of the feedback that we're getting, shall we do it again? I think one of the things that really stood out for both of us, if I'm remembering correctly, was the places where we felt, I don't want to say that we'd compromised, because I think we did a great job of pulling it together into a shape that we could offer. But we were really present to the enormous quantity of information and practice that people are being offered, and therefore the need and the value add of extended periods of reflection time for participants whilst they're with us. And just to breathe some breathing space into this monumental task of weaving together these two big bodies of thought. So I think what stands out for me is breathing space is a big answer to the question, why the extension? And there's probably some other stuff besides, but what are your thoughts?
Similar in some ways, in that one of the things that really struck me as we were weaving and then running the pilots was that so many of the habitual ways in which we are in conversation with each other, in other words, the ways in which we think with each other, are filled with habits of being, analyzing, trying to fix, judging, interpreting. You know, I could go on, but so many of those habits of being that show up when we relational are the habits of being that show up when we're in relationship with ourselves, our striving to fix, our striving to understand, our self-judging, our self-analysis. And when you realize, I guess, that what you are working with is habits of being that are not only individual, they're collective. And then you can expand that sense of collection, that kind of like group, to bigger and bigger circles, because that's what, that is what has happened, is that our habits of being form part of our culture even. It really does ask breathing space, because when you start to pay attention to that and you start to work with potentially shifting that, it asks for space and time, and it asks for a bit of slowing down to notice, slowing down to be with. And so that for me is a key aspect of the extended program, is allowing for the richness and the depth that we manage to, as you say, kind of wrestle together, but then to give that this space, so that we really are beginning to notice and shift our ways of being in relationship with ourselves and each other on very many levels. What do you think, Trisha?
Yeah, and I think it's vital. I think what we're talking about here is absolutely vital, because I was earlier in this week, I had the opportunity to have some time online with thinking partnership teachers from different parts of the world. And we were exploring that particular aspect of our work, teaching people how to become thinking partners, which of course is so central to what we're working with in Thinking with the Heart in Mind as well. And we came to the conclusion that one of the big things that we're standing for in the world as thinking partnership teachers is time and space. That's exactly what we're standing for. We're almost like activists for time and space, because it's so compromised in the world, isn't it? In the way in which we've constructed, as you say, our cultures, our ways of being, our ways of living life, this sort of hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, which is not good. It's not good for us as human beings, and it's certainly not good for the quality of our thinking, and it's not good for our hearts. Literally, it's not good for the actual muscle of the heart, the amount of stress we put ourselves under, and it's not good for living heartfully, which is a big part of our program. So yeah, I think this breathing space that we're putting into the program this year is just going to add an enormously additionally beneficial quality to the work that we already did last year with Thinking with the Heart in Mind. Do you want to add anything?
I think what's coming up for me is this, one of the things that we really preface or are is very foundational to the how of how we explore this work in Thinking with the Heart in Mind, and that is practice and reflection. And I wondered if you had any thoughts on that in particular. Why are practice and reflection so important in Thinking with the Heart in Mind?
Well, I think it circles right back round to what you started with in our thinking together today, which is, if we're looking for behavior change, if we're looking first of all for raising awareness, because if you want to change your behavior, you have to first become aware of what it is. So these habits of mind that you were referring to. So that needs time and space and reflection to become aware of your current way of being. And then if the intention and the invitation of the work that you're doing is to notice what's not working about that as well as it could for you and for others around you. In our last dialogue, we talked about a lot about self-compassion, and we talked about bringing more compassion into the interpersonal space between ourselves in conversation. So if you want to bring about behavior change, that needs practice. So yeah, I think that's why it's so vital and essential for this particular program that we make space for practice and for reflection, because that's how you improve your practice, isn't it? By reflecting on how it's going each time you do it. What do you think?
I think the way I always think about practice is that it is an act of compassion, because at the very essence of it, it acknowledges that we're human beings. And given that we're human beings, then we are therefore fallible and vulnerable. And we are going to make mistakes, and we are going to fall into habits of being that are unhelpful, that might need to shift or change, because that's what it means to be human. And then we have this wonderful invitation, and that is to practice slightly different, a newer, nuanced, a different, a different way, and that it's always a practice. So it's kind of, I suppose, it blows out of the water these misperceptions, or perhaps those very kind of hardened notions that create so much stress in our life, that we can arrive or get there, when actual fact every moment is an arriving or a moving or a getting, moving towards, and that is because if you imbue the moment with practice, then there's possibility and nuance and scope. And so, and you know, that is just incredibly compassionate. It's that possibility of being a fallible human being and having a way to work with your fallibility without getting caught up in it is it's a profound invitation. What do you think, Trisha? And perhaps maybe you can also share what you're looking forward about the extended version with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, that's exactly where my thoughts were going. I mean, having listened to what you've just said and what we've explored in this dialogue today, I'm looking forward to running the program again anyway with you, to being in that space with you. But I think I'm really looking forward to having the felt sense of what this additional practice and reflection time and spaciousness, and also because the participants learn so much from each other as well as from us, as much as from each other's experience. So I think the fact that we're making even more time and space for that is going to be something that I'm really relishing the experience of having with you and with them. Any final thought from you?
I think I can't help but being excited by some of the content we're exploring a little bit more deeply. So we hope to be going a little bit more deeply into some of the applications of the thinking environment and weaving the counsel process in. And we hope to be exploring emotions and the texture of emotions or feelings, if you come at it with the language of the thinking environment. And I think there's not only have we rooted ourselves in possibility, space and time, but we also, through the extension, adding a richness to it too. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds.
Me too. Thanks for today.
Thanks, Trisha, and thanks everyone for listening.